Welcome, everybody. Um, really excited to have everybody here to hear about the 500 Communities program. So the plan is I will give about a half an hour presentation, then we'll have time for a few questions, and then we'll wrap up for this evening and let you give some thought to whether this might be a good program for you. So first of all, I'm Katie McCammett. I'm the president and founder of Co-Housing Solutions. And I have worked really most of my adult life with co-housing. So I was the co-author of the book Co-Housing that introduced the idea to the English-speaking world decades back. I'm an architect. I've been a developer partnering with co-housing communities. I've been the project manager, or I've facilitated a lot of workshops, and I live in co-housing myself. I've lived in 2 communities myself as an owner. So this is a world I have spent pretty much every day, all day for the last 30 years. And over that period of time, I've learned a whole lot. You know, in development, you never say you've seen it all because there's always something else to see. But it is certainly a realm that I've been seeing a lot of. And I just wanted to take a minute to clarify so that everybody knows what we're talking about here. Is co-housing specifically is one type of community. And of course, there's a wide range of different types of communities. But co-housing does come with a very specific definition in that it combines private homes with community and community facilities and extensive common facilities. So co-housing is different than a shared housing model. It could be any type of ownership. It could be a co-op, a condominium, a rental. It's really not defined by that. But it is one particular type of co-housing. And working now as a development consultant, I'm involved with a lot of different communities all across the country. And I really see my role as a development consultant as bringing the best practices to communities of both co-housing communities and other types of communities so that others can grow from that and start from the lessons learned rather than having to relearn all the lessons. So this is a small sampling of the projects I've worked on. At any given time, I have 15 to 20 clients all across North America, including Canada. So it's been I have to say, really exciting for me at this stage because I feel like I have my fingers in a lot of pots. I have a really good sense about what is going on with the community development in different parts of the countries, how things are financing, what's working for different groups, how the economy is affecting different groups, what we're seeing in construction prices. And I'm then able to pass on and pass forward to both other groups going on at the same time and future communities on, what are the best practices? How do we create both strong communities socially as well as financially? So there is today over 170 co-housing communities built in 38 states across the United States. There's another 17 or 18 in Canada and a growing number there. So I would say at this point, there's probably almost as many communities in formation, or at least talking about it, as there are planned. And what we have seen over the last 30 years of creating co-housing communities is that they are developed in a wide range of ways. So we have a significant number of communities. There's a ticking. It's probably best if all of you mute, because otherwise we hear whatever's going on in your room. Thanks. Thank you. So I would say probably the largest number of co-housing communities are built in a townhouse style. That's largely because that's a density that works well and it's a type of land that's easier to get hold of than more urban projects or even more rural projects. So this is the project in Katahdin, Frog Song, which I was actually the developer for almost 20 years ago now. But we also see lower density projects as well as higher density projects. These are two senior co-housing communities. The photo in the upper is PDX Commons in Portland. So a very urban project, 27 units on half an acre, 4 stories. And then Stillwater, Oklahoma, another senior co-housing community that is more of a lower density, what I call the little cottages model. So these are all communities I've worked on, and you can really start to see the range of possibilities. Here's another couple. In the lower corner is Germantown in Nashville. Really was on the cutting edge of redeveloping a neighborhood that has just popped since then. And then up in the top corner is Temescal Commons, which is a little infill project in the middle of Oakland. A community that's a real soft spot in my heart as both the architect and development consultant with it. But reusing some existing housing stock, building a few more units, but really it's just a little double lot in the middle of the city for a 6-unit community with a small common house. So you can see that there is a wide range of co-housing types, sizes, and locations. And I see my role is, again, spreading the best practices and whatever the situation is in terms of what do they have, what are the resources available, what does their housing market look like, and how can I help both developers and communities create more collaborative developments. But that's all I'm going to talk about co-housing specifically here in the, for this webinar. If you want to know more and you're not familiar with co-housing already, I would really strongly recommend that you look at the Co-Housing Association's website at cohousing.org, where they have a directory of communities all across the country. Of course, my website and the book Creating Co-Housing, which talks about both living in community, in co-housing communities, and also some of the development process. So, but what we're seeing today in 2020 is a growing market. In some ways, I feel like we're in phase 2 of the co-housing development in the United States. So we had the original boom, the first communities were built in the early 1990s. Then the recession slowed all types of housing development all across the country. And now, as coming out of that, we're seeing a lot of interest in these types of housing developments. One of the areas we're seeing a lot of growth is from boomers. You know, boomers, we have changed everything we've done as our huge numbers blast through at each stage. And so now the numbers are there's about 10,000 people retiring every day. And that's having a huge effect on the senior housing market. And we're finding that a lot of boomers are looking around and they're looking for something that is both a comfortable place to age in place, but is not part of a large corporate retirement community. And so this idea of infill projects in the city where you're looking after your neighbors, you have a real collaborative environment is a very attractive option for many boomers. And I would say boomers split both ways. Some are interested in age-restricted communities, and some really want to live in intergenerational communities. So they will populate both types of developments. And at the same time, we're also seeing a lot of families interested. Having raised my own daughter in co-housing, I just think it's the most fabulous way to raise kids. And one of the few things that gets you out of driving across town to play dates. So I think the intergenerational nature of co-housing and the freedom that it allows for communities, for kids to have different models of adults, to have more freedom on their property, to have playmates nearby is a tremendous way to raise kids and really much more in line with the way families have functioned historically. So we are seeing a growing interest in co-housing communities all across the country. And I think, it really comes from two different driving things. One is the social sustainability and our sort of ever-growing social isolation and trying to find ways to counter that that are also fun and still protect our privacy. And then also a growing understanding that we have got to find ways that we can live the good life while using less of the Earth's resources and looking at environmental sustainability. And I really look at co-housing as addressing those two things. That is social sustainability and environmental sustainability, and playing off of those. So let's talk about the 500 Communities program. This is, is a program which I founded about 5 years ago. As I'm working and realizing that there are very few people who know how to work in a collaborative way with a buyer's group and with a developer, and feeling like I'm going to run out of time here. So my goal is really to grow a group of network of professionals that know how to work with co-housing communities, as well as how to adapt what we've learned in co-housing to other types of communities. Because I think the one thing we absolutely know is over the upcoming decades, this model will change and evolve as our society does. So the program is based on a number of key things. One is sharing best practices. Initially, my best practice is what I've learned, but eventually everybody involved in the program sharing their own best practices as we continue to move this idea forward. To create a network of professionals that work collaboratively together and have a shared foundational information that we can build off of. And I think that really allows us to broaden our impact in a way that's simply not possible now. And I think it also allows us to be much more successful. So somebody is really rustling around and we are hearing everything that is rustling. So if you haven't muted, please do mute. Thank you. So I also think it will really increase your success and ability to work in this realm. I have done dozens and dozens of workshops over the years. I've seen many people walk out and say they were going to go do this. And particularly as a professional, it can be quite challenging to be out there alone, not having a support network to support you in doing your work or other people to work with and share ideas with who have the same level of understanding that you do, as opposed to someone who's brand new to it. So again, this idea of a collaborative network that works together, that feeds off of each other, and ultimately has more fun doing the work. So my goal is to give you the tools to launch projects, to provide one-on-one coaching to you, and to help you figure out how are you going to build on your strengths? What do you bring to this world as a professional? What is the team that you want to work with, need to work with? And what is ultimately your business model? In fact, I would argue the 500 Communities program is the only place there is an ongoing conversation about the business model of developing sustainable communities. We've come a long ways in terms of understanding what it takes to create successful communities. And if you go to any of the co-housing conference, you'll learn an enormous amount talking to other people that are living in co-housing. There's only a very few of us who have gone back and been involved in development of multiple different communities that can really start to compare what's working, what's not working, how do we do it better. So that's really what I'm looking for here is a group of people that want to work in this world as professionals and to do more than your own project. I built this program off my model of how I worked with Jim Leach. Jim Leach was the founder of Wonderland Hill Development Company and was the first developer to partner with a co-housing group with the Niland community in Colorado. Over the years, we worked on many projects together and then eventually actually formed a development company with Jim and I doing co-housing communities here in California. And what I got from that relationship was both a development mentor, but also somebody where we could fine tune the details of how we were doing things because we had worked on so many projects together. And so we could, when we were driving across the country to various meetings, we could dissect the difference between the B unit in the Bellingham project versus the B unit in the Hearthstone project, and what we liked and didn't like, and where did it add cost and where did it live better. How did we put through the financing on this project versus that project? I'm really struggling with this piece of the budget, Jim. Can you take a look at it? And so just having someone that I knew would always take my call, that knew what I was talking about, that was working in the same realm, that we could have a deeper level of conversation about how do we work effectively here? How do we find that? So that's been one of my models of, with my luck of being able to work with Jim, is how can I pass that same type of relationship on to the future and grow the number of people who can work in this. As you consider whether the 500 Communities program might be for you, I want to encourage you to think that we really need a wide range of people coming from different backgrounds. I think there's a couple of very different approaches, which I see as all part of this program. So one is sort of the hardcore real estate project management and development. So we have people who have come out of the program that are now acting as developers, acting as project managers, working with co-housing communities. And they bring to that, a background in design, in construction potentially, and is more the traditional real estate development aspects, working with a collaborative group of buyers and residents. But there's a whole nother realm which I feel like there's tremendous opportunity in, and that is the marketing and membership. That people, I think, generally don't realize that we actually need real marketing when we're building communities to find the buyers, and that I want the communities to be able as successful as possible with their investment of time and money to find their neighbors. And so I really feel like there is a range of unfulfilled professional roles in marketing and membership, as well as working with communities on process and how they work together. So, I see this coming together with people from a wide different ranges of backgrounds, and I think that's one of the real richnesses of the work, is to have those different views within the program. I also think that this can very well complement your other work. It takes a while to build up a business doing co-housing consulting. You will need to have some other way to pay the bills, I can guarantee it, for quite a while. And so think about, is this something that would bring sort of another look to an existing business you have? As an example, if you're a strong in process and facilitation, that's a skill that's much needed within the collaborative development world. You can be one who trains groups or helps work groups to fine tune their processes. And I think having a deeper understanding of the real estate development process can help inform how you work with communities. I worked with many years with a gal in Jim's office, Annie Russell, and one of the things I really appreciated from her was, even though her strength and what she was focused on was the process and the social community building side, she had an understanding of the realities, the real estate market and real estate development, that gave me a comfort level that she wasn't going to send the group sideways when we had a very time-sensitive decision that we really needed to move forward with. On the other hand, I could see someone who was, for instance, a civil engineer or a builder who wanted to learn about how do they get involved in more collaborative communities and bring those skills in and add this to your various services you are already providing. So the features of the program is first, it is a year-long training. We start with a kickoff in-person retreat in September here in Nevada City. It's a weekend-long retreat, and it's been very popular with the last classes. We get to, get to know each other, get to meet in person, and sort of set the foundational information, as well as visiting several of our local communities here. So then in the following months, we have twice a month webinars. The first one in the month is a curriculum call where we're talking about different aspects of co-housing development. The second one is more of a mastermind discussion with the trainees sharing with each other what they're working on, what their business model is, and taking the discussion deeper and how do you adapt what you're learning in the curriculum calls to what you're doing on the ground there. In all of these calls, I share templates and examples, best practices, and everybody gets a one-on-one coaching session every month where we can really talk about what you're doing, where do you see taking this, how does you adapt what you're learning here to your specific goals and situation. And keep in mind, this is a small class. I would be a dozen people at the largest and quite likely smaller. So it is not a situation where if you apply, you get in. It's actually a competitive process to be accepted because I'm looking for people who can be successful and are really ready to dedicate the time and effort in order to be successful. So just a sense of the curriculum as we go through it month to month. So we start by talking about building your market. I think people just automatically show up, but found out they don't. You really need to get people thinking about why would you want to live in a co-housing community? What are other types of communities that you might be interested in? Building that market so people do know that there's an opportunity there. And again, you'll see a theme through this is really about the business model. So this program is not about how do you get your community built. There is a cheaper way to do that. About that later. But if you want to work in this world as a professional, then you got to really figure out your business model. How do you get paid? How does the money work in a development budget? What's realistic there? So that's a theme that follows all the way through the program. Then we look at site search and project feasibility. Month 4 would be talking, how do you partner with a developer? Why would a developer partner? Why would you talk to them? How do you pitch it? What do developers do? All of that. Then we circle back to group formation, which is once you have site under contract, you have a specific group that is now really focused on that property, that opportunity, and that site. So at that point, you're taking a group from going from a broad interest in community in general to a very specific group of people looking to live in the same neighborhood together. Then we get to budgets. What's a development budget look like? What are the things that changed place to place? And I'll be sharing my well-honed templates for that. Turns out that takes a whole session. We circle back to cash flow. How do you raise the money? And then how do you engage your co-housing community members in marketing and membership? The issues of working through the political approvals, neighborhood, what are key points there? How do you set up your project so that your buyers can get competitive mortgages? What is a homeowners association? How is that different in a co-housing community to a regular condo? And then construction. So we'll be literally walking through every phase of the community development. You'll note that it is not focused on design. I have facilitated all of the design workshops. I've been the architect for co-housing communities, but really I'm focused on training. I'm not really training architects. I have had architects in the program that are looking at broadening their skills in project management, but it's not based on learning how to design co-housing. At the end of the year, you become a certified co-housing consultant. So once you complete the program, that starts phase 1. And you can now say that you've been part of this program and in the training. But that's not where it ends. For me, it's just getting exciting now. Because once you've successfully completed the program, you're invited to become a Co-Housing Solutions affiliate. So this isn't for everybody, but we have over, I think I've got 16 affiliates now that have come out of the last 3 classes and wanted to continue with the program and continue the conversation. And so we have a regular monthly call, checking in, what are people working on, sharing best practices, and access to me. So that for me, that's really the juice of it, is where the conversation continues as we move forward. And that you have a relationship with Co-Housing Solutions, just in how we do business and access to me in terms of how you get your own business out there, how we partner on things together. So in the long term, what I'm really hoping to build is that everybody's contributing their best practices within the Co-Housing Solutions affiliates, that we get greater visibility by marketing things together, and that you have access to our database and that we're building that database. And in addition to that, you have the name recognition of working with me in Co-Housing Solutions as you launch things in your own regions. So for those of you looking at this, you got a lot of options ahead of you, right? So you don't have to do anything. Most of you probably have quite satisfactory lives. Why in the world would you take on this? I can tell you right up front, it's not the easiest way to earn a living. Or you can do what I did, is spend the next 30 years learning how to do collaborative developments. That's definitely an option. You can try it on your own, make it up as you go. And I have to say, you know, I have not worked with every co-housing community in the country, and people do figure it out. You know, I think, you know, so that certainly is a possibility. Or if really you just want to build your own community, I would really suggest just looking at hiring Co-Housing Solutions as a development consultant. It'll be cheaper to you personally. I can consult and focus on your community. That's always an option. And if really your goal is to build your own community for yourself, that's what I would recommend. But if you are serious about, you know, being involved in not one project, but multiple projects, and the potential of that, because you build on one project onto the next. So just as a small example, you know, one of the affiliates, because he's been working in the same area now, hears about other properties that would work for co-housing. Those are the kinds of contacts and networks that typically get lost with when a community is focused on just getting their own community built, and then they never want to think about the development process again. So the opportunities, I feel, really open up when you've got somebody regionally based that is really focused on, is the person to call, is the person that people would reach out to if they came across a site, if they thought, oh, I talked to you a couple of years ago. And I have found in my own work that if I'm doing anything in Northern California where I've built a database and I'm best known, it is not unusual for me to hear from people on a new project who had been following us for quite some time, but had not found the right place or the right project to plug into. So building these regional databases, I think, really will support the marketing of many communities over the long run. It's not free. So it is, the price is $9,750 for the whole year. And we can work with you on payment plans, though we give you an incentive to pay it all up front. I will likely offer a partial scholarship based on need. But what I've really found is when I'm looking for people who are really ready to commit some time and effort and to be part of this. And I found that making a financial commitment is directly related to making the kind of effort commitment that it takes to really get something out of this. So we've now had 3 classes have graduated, and some people have drifted off to other things, but out of this cohort that you see here on the screen, there's 16 people that have stuck with the program as affiliates and are now working together in a wide variety of ways. And again, the program is really up to you to get stuff started. Daryl here, who is got his hands there showing things. Daryl has been the construction project manager for the Fair Oaks project in the Sacramento region. So he is probably the only professional that group is still talking to. It's been a long, hard construction process, but he has been playing the interface between the contractor, the architects, the civil engineer, and the county and the community, leading them through that process. He's also, one of the other things he's done has started a community land trust in Sonoma County, north of San Francisco. So I'm really excited once he gets through the sign-offs from the county on this Fair Oaks project in the next couple of months, that he'll be able to share more with us about the community land trust that he's building from scratch. John Kay was part of the first class, and he is there holding the leash of the dog, and he founded the C Street Co-Housing in Marin County. Now, just a little bit about Marin County. Marin County is just north of San Francisco. It's one of the most expensive and difficult development environments in the country. And there have been co-housing groups in Marin County for literally 30 years, but they never got to a viable property. So John lives there, had lived in Blueberry Hill on the East Coast before moving out to the West Coast where his wife was from. And he is, and has the training that he can be a project manager. But what he really did was get on the ground and identify every possible property and had the patience to stick with it for a couple of years to actually get this property under contract. So he is the day-to-day project manager for the project. I'm working closely with him as we take the project forward. It is now in the planning approval process with the Planning Commission. And with any luck, we'll be starting construction later this year or early next spring. But he's already been hearing from land brokers that he talked to when he was doing his first search on potential other properties in the county. So that's where I see, like, if he wasn't there on the ground, we wouldn't be hearing about those. Those other opportunities would have no place to go. Shelley, here on the left-hand side with the name tag, Shelley Parks is based up north of Seattle, and she came into the program with 10 years of experience in marketing and sales, and particularly the sales side for senior housing. Came across co-housing and fell in love with it. She is now both part of her own group, Skagit Co-Housing, that she'll be living in, but giving workshops with groups all across the country on how to increase the effectiveness of their marketing. And particularly the follow-up, that's where I think co-housing communities were really weakest, was how to follow up. What is the sales process and how do you lead people through that? So I also think that these are skills that make it possible for a developer to initiate a project of co-housing is if he's got a sales team. And if you don't have someone on the ground who knows how to build a community of buyers around a project, I could have a developer call me and not really have anything I can give them if there's not someone there to build the group with them. So those are the kinds of things that Shelley and another affiliate up in Calgary are really pioneering. But again, I want to emphasize that one of the most important things is the conversation that continues among us. As we share information, we share approaches, and support each other doing this work. And so I feel like this year, we're really getting into the juice with those conversations. And we look for opportunities to come together. So one of the really exciting things we had last year, there was the big co-housing conference in Portland, and we had a 500 Communities Day the day before the conference. Again, we brought in some professionals and developers to share their different business models, to share it with each other. And for many of the participants, I'm so proud to say, said it was the best part of the conference, was the 500 Communities Day. Very exclusive group, I must say. So what do you need to succeed? Well, you've got to be willing to invest in yourself and in co-housing. This is, it's not going to, like I say, it's not going to pay the bills right away. So you need some financial stability to support you while you're building up a business as a co-housing consultant or developer. It definitely takes an entrepreneurial spirit because it's possible that I would get a new client and it happened to be fit with what you were doing and I could feed you right into that. But it's more likely that you're going to have to start your own things going. So that ability to like, we can do this and go out and start your own business and initiate projects, initiate your talking to existing, communities that are there on the ground that might need help and being willing to do that. And of course, working with a lot of people, you do need good communication skills. You need to know how to lead and when to collaborate and step back. So, it definitely is a unique combination of skills, and it's not for everyone. But I think for those who are looking to get involved in co-housing, who are looking to align your professional work with creating sustainable communities, I think it's a really exciting program, and I hope you'll give it serious consideration. I'm just going to take a few questions here. If you can chat them in. And let's see, Sarah. Any questions, or maybe I'll just wait and wrap it up here. What was that? Yeah, so that's C Street, I think I was showing, is if you look at Marin Co-housing, if you just Google Marin Co-housing, you'll get to C Street Village. So, yeah, when is the application available? So yes, I think you've sort of said, I think we intend to have the application available, and in fact, I'm gonna jump right on here. In March next week, and you begin that process by sending Riley, and you can find all of this information on our website. So if you send Riley a resume and a cover letter, that will start the application process. She'll send you a list of other questions. The applications are not due until the end of June. And that's really when we're going to look at them. We will ask for references. We want some idea of your thinking. So there's those questions there. But then what we will then, so you'll be getting updates on our 500 Communities mailing list by registering on our website. And that will give you a sense of that. But anyway, the application process will open next week. We will decide who gets into this year's class in July and get acceptance letters out. And then the September retreat will be that last weekend in September. So if something of strong interest you, you can block that out here. And that is our one in-person gathering for the year. So generally, if there is a co-housing conference, we usually try to have a gathering tied to that. This year, there's not an obvious place for an in-person gathering, so I'll be putting the word out to the current affiliates what they want to do. So, we could go to any number of places and talk to people and see more communities there. So Let's see if we have some more questions. What's the average income of a co-housing consultant once they're up and running? Well, obviously there's a wide range of possibilities, and including where you are. Project managers typically bill something between $75 and $150 an hour. And but obviously, if you have some resources that or act as the developer, you're taking on greater risk. There's more there. Other people are providing, individual, more ad hoc consulting. So it ranges quite a bit in terms of what people put in to it, and then what are the services they're offering. The person in Calgary is Sarah Arthurs, and you can definitely check with her. And I believe most of our current affiliates are on our website. I should say that one of the other things is that I really do not want to train competing interest in the same region. So if you're applying from a region where we have affiliates already, I will be including the affiliates in deciding, can we bring other people into that same region? And sometimes it works really well because there's actually complementary skills. But for those who have been through the program, I'm pretty protective of them. And I don't think it really helps anyone to have people who have gone through the program are really trying to work and end up competing against each other for the limited amount of work. One of the things we really need to do is to continue to grow the market overall. And so as the market grows, obviously there will be more work in the market. But you'll have to remember that when I started doing co-housing consulting, nobody knew what co-housing was. So it was really creating a market, and that was the basis of our initial book to get it off the ground. So I do hope that this has given you an idea of what the program is. We will be doing more webinars, and this recording will be available for those of you who attended today. So, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking to you on the phone until your resume is in front of me and you got something in. But I would really encourage you to explore whether you think this is for you in helping to playing a role, not with just your own community, but with a lot of communities, in a professional way that actually makes for a more sustainable world in a very concrete way. That's what I'm looking to do, is to create the next 500 communities and move on from there. But I'm definitely going to need some help doing that. So I hope you will give it consideration. You are welcome to talk to any of the affiliates, and we can certainly connect you if there's something specifically you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. And I think we'll leave it at that for tonight.
Thank you.